welcome to another episode of the Beyond the Fence podcast presented by Headbanger Sports with your hosts, Coach RAC, Chris, and Joe this morning. Mike is gone, probably taking an ice bath, so we'll miss his one line today. Today we are joined by MegRem softball. Meg played Division I softball all 4 years at Appalachian State. Is that correct?
Appalachian.
Okay, perfect. Meg has hundreds of thousands of followers on social media, one of the most trusted voices in softball. Currently based in West Palm Beach, Florida. Thanks for being here, Meg. Personal question. When did you get started on social media? You and I do very similar things, it seems, as I was going through your page. But how did you get started?
Yeah, so I started in October of 2020. I was doing lessons full time, and the facility that I was working at wanted all of the instructors to post once a week, basically just on their page, and they wanted us to do some videos. And at the time, my videos, literally the same videos I'm doing now, but I got a lot of great feedback. And my now husband was like, "Why don't you start a YouTube channel? Just make a couple extra bucks."
That makes sense.
And I was like, yeah, okay. And then it just
already doing the videos.
Yeah. And it just took off. So since then I've been grinding it out.
I'd say so. I mean, I think you have like 250,000 followers, I believe.
Well, on YouTube.
Collaboratively.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I don't know the actual number, but yeah.
It's
I got
high.
a lot of different, a lot of different social media channels.
Yeah. It's funny. So many people I know got started during that time, and I think it ended up being, a blessing in disguise, kind of just what spawned out of that year with regards to social media stuff. Because, up until that point, I feel like it was hard to find good information all in one place. And I know a lot of people who got started making baseball or softball coaching videos like around that time. And I feel like since then, over the past few years, there's been lots of different creators that have popped up, and I feel like it's super helpful, useful information. Because I remember when I played, it was like I would look up, tutorials on YouTube, and finally it was like, okay, I don't, I'm hearing a bunch of different things on here. I don't know if I could trust these people. So I feel like that. I've heard that a lot when I ask people, when did you get started on social media? Usually it's around that time. So
yeah, and honestly, at least what I think is again, I think my content is really good, but there was at the time not many softball videos. It's all baseball, and I always say I grew up in a baseball family. Dad was a D1 baseball coach, so I understand a lot of baseball fundamentals apply to softball.
Sure.
Obviously the game of softball is a lot faster. That's really the only difference, but there was really no softball specific. And if there was, it was from like 1970, truly, or like
wearing
1980.
like the softball shorts,
yes.
like the old school shorts.
Yeah. And it's like still good content, but
so RAC wears still to this day. So
yeah, it's true.
That's why I really think it took off, because there just really wasn't that much softball at the time.
Do you still work in person and do like a lot of in-person stuff? Like what's the kind of workload now that you do so much social media stuff?
Right at this time in my life, I'm doing about 4 to 5 lessons a week. And that's just, so I moved to Florida over like a year and a half ago. And at the time I was doing, still am, a clinic or traveling at least once every week, every other week,
sure.
Out of the state. So, and I'm doing everything on my own other than my website. So when I started traveling a ton, I was like, I can't do lessons full time anymore. I just don't have the time to edit, do my videos, travel, do all the admin stuff. So now I'm doing just, couple lessons with girls who started with me a year and a half ago in Florida, and then traveling almost every weekend.
Let's say it looks like you have a couple more clinics coming up. One up in Reno, Nevada.
It's had that this past
Is that
weekend.
spelled right? In Nevada?
I say Nevada. Well, I'm from Ohio. I don't know. I feel like wherever you're from, you say different things.
Oh yeah, it was this weekend. Oh wow, this is going really fast.
11/11.
Yeah.
I just got back. I took the red eye yesterday from Nevada, and then I go to Findlay, where Joe's from.
Joe Hartman territory.
Let's see. I go for a coach's clinic and then parent-daughter, which is the first time I'm ever doing those types of clinics. So I'm pumped.
So walk us through like a normal clinic when you're set up at some of these places. Like how does it come to fruition? Like where do you start?
So I usually have someone reach out to me, a coach or a parent, and they're like, "Hey, I want you to come over here." I'm like, "Great." request at least 2 clinics of 28 kids because I pay for all my expenses, travel, everything. So I just need to make it worth my time. And normally, an organization can fill those 2 clinics, and if not, they'll fill one, and they'll help me with equipment, coaches, or like they'll find me high school seniors to help me run the clinic,
Gotcha.
and they find me the facility, and I usually end up with at least 4 clinics
in the same time.
same, yeah. So I usually
wow.
go 1 Friday, 2 Saturday, 1 or 2 Sunday, and
So
then
by the end of the weekend, you're shot.
done.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And like this past weekend, I did 3, but I'm also 23 weeks pregnant. So I was like, that's my limit.
Well, congratulations,
Thank
by the
you.
way.
Thank you.
Absolutely. For those of you that don't know.
Yes. Thank you.
So in a coach's clinic, like you go to these coaches clinic, is this kind of like to walk through coaches on what you expect out of like your practices or what you've seen at the D1 level? Because playing at D1, it's a little bit different. We've had these conversations with RAC and, you know, the D3, the D2, D1 level, and then club level.
Yeah.
And the amount of time that it takes. So,
yeah. So I've never done a coach's clinic, and I've actually never been to one. So I'm not nervous. I'm really excited because we have like 86 coaches right now signed up.
Wow.
So I'm doing it with my dad, who he coached D1 for 25 years. My brother, who's a current assistant D1 coach, and then my hitting coach, who he coached D1, all baseball. So
you say you grew up in a baseball family. You
yeah,
grew up in
and
a
my
baseball family.
husband works for the Marlins, so
Nice.
all baseball.
I like to watch baseball games. If you ever get any extra tickets, you know.
Marlins, yeah, I'll hook you up. So I've never done one, but yes, we're going to talk on, you know, what if you want to play D1 or even any type of college ball, like what the expectations are. But really, what I want to touch on, and this is what I see at my clinics, is how to create a winning environment. And that it has nothing to do with softball. That's just teaching how to be respectful, showing up on time, hustling, giving 100% effort, which I don't see that a ton at my clinics. And that surprises me because, and maybe generations are a little different now.
Listen, this is an issue that we've talked about in the past previous episodes. Like there's kids that come and like this, like mom and dad just want them to go and they don't really want to be there. So like at what age do you actually set these kids up to go to these clinics and hitting lessons and things like that? And
that they don't want to be there, but also they want to be there, but they also want to start and be great. It doesn't work that way. Right. I mean, you can get away with it at 8U, 10U, which I always tell my girls in my clinics, like, cool, you can play because mom and dad are paying your fees, and at 8U, you have to play. But once you get 14U and up, depending on what team you are on, you got to earn your spot. And that's just something I don't see at my clinics. And granted, it's just a clinic, so it's not like they don't need to impress me.
Sure.
But I'm always preaching like effort. You got to have 100% effort. So yeah, I want to touch on that a lot with coaches because sometimes when I go to these clinics and it's run by an organization, half the time I'm yelling at the kids, and I'm not even talking about softball. And the coach is like, "Thanks so much for doing that."
Wow.
And I'm like, "No, they're actually a reflection of you." Like, and they kind of like look at me. I'm like, I'm not trying to be mean, but they know they can get away with it because they get away with it with you.
Yeah.
But you're not helping them to be a better human. And yes, we want to make them better softball players, but it's more of just we want to make these kids successful in life after softball. And that all, again, starts with effort, showing up on time. Those are things you can control.
I always tell my son, if you're not early, you're late.
Exactly.
Yeah, if you're not showing up early, you're not, and be the last one out. Like clean up the locker room, make sure everything's picked up. Like show your coaches that you want to be a part of the team.
Right. And when I was coach 14U for a little bit, and I asked my dad because they can't drive, and I'm like, and these kids are showing up late, and I was asking my dad, I'm like, hey, I'm very big on being late is just not acceptable unless now. Sure. There's
things that happen.
Yes.
Like traffic.
Yes. Technically I wasn't late today, but, but I'm like, how do you do that if they don't drive? And he basically was like, parents have to figure it out. Like I did 3 sports when I was at 4 sports, literally like all the time. I had 2 other siblings. I was never late to a practice. My dad, love him, but he was away because he was a coach. So my mom, we figured it out. Carpool. I don't know. So anyway, so that's what I definitely want to cover in my clinics, but also just showing a bunch of drills to work on fundamentals. That's also something I do not see that it's not worked on enough. And I see that through my clinics.
Yeah. No, you see the same thing, RAC? Like when you go to these NYABC clinics and whatnot, you're having these camps. Are you seeing the same thing all the way through?
Yeah. Well, it really depends on the context, but I've done a lot of lessons in previous years. I guess it's different now because when we do the NYABC camps, it's this whole production and the kids know what they're going to get. They've already seen the coaches on social media before. And so they're usually like very quiet, very respectful, and a little kind of nervous to be there. And then after a little while, they open up and whatnot. But in the past, though, when I would do lessons and clinics, and the kids don't really know who I am or anything like that. Or even, I guess a better example would be coaching high school, because this past year I coached a high school team. But yeah, very, yeah, you get a very mixed bag.
It's different than what we grew up with. I think that our parents were very strict, a little bit more strict.
Around.
Yeah. Joe, what do you see? I know you coached and you've been a part of the travel organizations. Your daughter's going through all the travel stuff right now, multiple daughters. You seen the same thing on the sidelines?
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of the same things in Ohio. There's also a lot of different levels of softball now, same with baseball. So anybody can be on a travel team. So your lower level teams, you're seeing a lot more of that, taking it a lot less serious.
It's like my kid didn't make a team, so we're going to start a team. Yeah.
But even with that, which fires me up, when I do clinics or go around, it's like, oh, well, we're rec girl or we're rec team, so we can show up late. I'm like, I don't care who you are. Show up on time.
Has nothing to do. We were just talking about this with like homework. Like these kids are allowed to turn their homework in late and they're still getting full credit. So what is that teaching kids like going through high school? It's like, you know what? My work can be late. I don't have any deadlines. I can be late to school and not have consequences. Like that's nothing that we were all taught coming up through school. We were taught discipline. We were taught to be on time or be early, work harder than everybody else and kind of go through that process. But, everybody made fun of us as like that new generation coming through. And then now it's like a different generation. I'm sure they're going to be perfectly fine. But it's like, how do we get to that point first? Because I want to kill my 16-year-old sometimes. I'm like, dude, you can't even wake up on your own. Like you're 16 years old. So,
but we're seeing more the competitive discipline players going to higher level teams and then taking the coaches and the parents with them. So they're not instilling that into your rec teams and stuff, which is unfortunate because there's a lot of kids that can't afford to do that.
Yeah.
So travel ball has gotten way out of control. I'm sure it's not the same on the baseball side, but that could be a whole nother podcast.
It is
out of control.
Yeah. I mean, the baseball side has turned into business. I mean, truthfully,
right.
Like with PG and I commend what PG does because I think they do a great job of like advertising the players that are playing. But to be able to pay a $550 fee for one team to go in, and then you're paying $55 per person for entry fees, and then you're having to go off site to go get food because there is no food on site, and then to play like a consolation game on a Monday morning. I'm like, come on, guys. Like nobody wants to play a consolation game, first off. Like if you lose and you're out of the tournament, you're out of the tournament. You don't need to play a consolation game. But I guess that's where we are in life. We all get trophies at this point in time, and we are teaching kids that it's okay to be late to school and okay to be late with your homework. But there's a lot of good things that are coming out of this too. Like these kids are extremely technologically savvy. So like that's being able to utilize the tools. Like we've talked about this on previous podcasts with Hit Tracks, Rapsodo, and all these other things. Like there's so many more tools that these kids are utilizing now to develop their swings and their performance and their metrics between pitching and hitting and even outfield. Are you using any of that in any kind of your videos at all right now?
No. And the only reason I'm not is because in my personal opinion, I feel, and a lot of my audience or kids I actually physically work with are younger. And when a lot of numbers and all of that's thrown out, it's already hard. Like, for example, hitting, it's already hard enough.
Yeah.
We're making it 1 million times harder. And I just feel it's just too much.
So you think at a certain age or a certain experience level that it's okay?
Yeah. Like there's certain tools out there that I think are great for high school and older where they can just understand what it means. Like
what the backspin rate is.
Yes. Yeah. Launching, all that stuff.
I mean, it's cool because my kid, like he works with, his name's Ryan Ellis. He was in the Mets organization for a long time as a hitting instructor, and he utilizes Rapsodo right now. And like, he found a small hitch that completely changed everything just by looking at that kind of, where his hands were dipping before he loaded and whatever else. So I think that at a certain age point, like you don't want to throw an 8-year-old kid up on a hit tracks with a Rapsodo and expect him to understand, or her to understand, what the correct launch angle is, because they have no idea what you're talking about, and they're going to look at you like you're crazy.
Well, and that's what a lot of younger kids are, because it's so cool and everyone else is doing it. And it's like, well, do you even like parents, like, do you understand what this even means? No. Okay, well, you're wasting your money.
Sure.
I mean, I hate to say it, but you are.
Yeah, and I think it also can promote. There's just different types of hitters. Like, and I saw, Meg, you make a video on this. Like, not every hitter is going to be a home run hitter, and that's okay. A lot of those numbers, for me, I find them super helpful for pushing your limits. And I think that you have to, have portions of your training be, seeing what your ceiling is and trying to push through that. But it's almost more of a training thing than anything. And it shouldn't be used so much as a comparison tool, because there's just different types of players. I didn't always have the best, exit velocity on the team, but that didn't mean I couldn't be one of the best hitters on the team.
And a lot of tryouts are actually geared that way now too. Like, if you go to some of these bigger organizations and they're trying out, they're utilizing these metrics. Like, the pop times are so fast, and 95% of them are false, because they're already like kind of coming up as they're jumping, as they're coming through, or like the infield velos across the diamond. Like, these guys are doing like full on like jump throws. You're not utilizing that in a real game. So like, why do these metrics exist? Does it really hurt the game, or does it help the game?
Yeah, I think it helps. I really think it does help the game for the very serious player. Like, it is helpful for me having numbers, like it giving me immediate feedback. Cause what I noticed is, like, it really did matter for me to hit the ball hard. Like, that's something colleges do care about. And you have to hit the ball hard to be able to play. Like, that's just, you have to exceed a certain threshold. Otherwise you're just not going to be able to compete. So for me personally, it's helpful to have kind of a benchmark and be like, okay, this is where I'm at. I'm going to try to get here, maybe set a goal, and I can have concrete numbers to tell me, okay, I'm getting closer from point A to point B. But so I think it's helpful, but again, it's all just in the hands of the user. And this is where I think same thing with everything you see on social media, like whether it's a new drill or like, nothing's going to fix you. And nothing is going to, like, by itself make you a better baseball or softball player. It's like, you can use all this information as tools. All of those things can help you and make you a better player. But it's all about the way that you use them. Like that. I mean, lots of the videos that I make are probably not helpful for certain types of hitters, but they're probably extremely helpful for hitters who were a lot like me when I played. And so that's where, if I, with so many things on social media, though, like, people in comments are always, or often, I should say, talking in extremes. There's lots of extremes. It's like, oh, he has no idea what he's talking about because Albert Pujols said this. And it's like, yeah, that's what Albert Pujols said, and that's what he did, and that worked for him. And you should absolutely try that. And if it works for you, then do it, and don't do what I do. But for the players who, need something else, like, just every player is so different, so unique. And that's, I guess, the one, if there's like one overarching principle I've learned about coaching, it's that I don't know everything. And I need to be a constant student of the game if I'm actually going to be a good coach. The coaches who kind of solidify their ideas of how the game works and think they have it figured out, I think usually are the ones who do a lot more harm than good.
And if you're not built like Aaron Judge, let's try not to lift the ball every time.
We talked about that with Kylan Becker. Like, do you know her by chance? So she played at LSU, I believe, right? It was LSU, I want to say.
I'm so bad at remembering those things, but probably.
She works for Wilson, but she talked about a lot of the Japanese players and like how they utilize their swing, like the differences from them to the United States players and whatnot. Every player has a different swing. And if you go to a coach and he's trying to cut a cookie cutter swing into your child, like, it's time to find a different coach, first off, because they don't know what they're talking about, because everybody's stance is different. Everybody's hands are different. Where they load is going to be different. Their launch angle is going to be different. And if you can find a coach that will help you develop that player's swing in the way that you're comfortable swinging the bat, then you will be successful.
Absolutely. So, Meg, I got a question. What would you say? Because again, we talked about, travel ball is a mess with a lot of things. What would you say is a big mistake or a common mistake that you see travel ball parents making in the softball world? And again, that's kind of a broad question, but
no, that's a great question, because I coached 14U and 16U for a couple years, and I was the head coach. And again, I'm not saying I'm so great. There's a lot of, in softball, I don't know how it is in baseball, a lot of dads who maybe played baseball a little bit or who have not, and then we'll have parents or moms who actually did play. So, but a lot of them are just parents who haven't played. And when I coached, it was me and then my two best friends who played at App. So all former players. We don't have any daughters on the team. And at the time, I think I was like 28, I think. So, still like I wasn't that far out from playing. And I thought like, okay, great. We can teach these girls how to, be great athletes, humans, the recruiting process, all that. And we were kind of still really green. This was my 16U team. And so, but I'm very big on, we're going to do situations at practice because we just didn't know where to throw the ball when there's a runner on second base. And parents did not really like that too much. Because, we're not doing drills and we're not doing live. And I'm like, well, we need to know where to throw the ball first. And then with that, we weren't going to these massive, huge tournaments. And we were in North Carolina at the time, in like Colorado, because they're going to put you on a field in like a cornfield with no coaches, but you're paying thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. Yeah. And I knew that because I've been there, done that. And these parents didn't like that. Well, we're going to these local tournaments which were great local tournaments with schools that would recruit my girls and it would be a good fit for my girls. Mm-hmm. Parents didn't like that. They all
think they could do better.
Their expectations were not realistic. And so within two tournaments, I had half the team quit. And that ruined it for me because as a coach, you put in all this time and effort and then you're teaching your girls it's okay to quit. Mm-hmm. Even if you don't like it. It literally was mind blowing. And then after that, I'm done. This is not worth my time and energy. I don't have a girl playing in the game, so I don't need to stick around.
Yeah.
And that's when I started my lessons and clinics. I'm like, it upset to the point. My last girl who quit, I'll be completely honest. And that's the one that the team folded. I cried. I was so upset. So I was like, what are you teaching your kids? Yeah. And no offense, or mom and dad, your girl's not going to Alabama. Like you got to be realistic about their athletic ability. I'm trying to still figure out, our parents, both of you guys are parents. Are you delusional? Like, do you think your kids are
I think
better
there's
than
a 50-50 mix there, right? Joe, I'll let you talk first because I've talked about my son enough on this podcast. I think everybody knows.
Give your son some love.
No, and I will. I will. So you go first.
Well, my daughters are sitting in the studio here, so
hype them up.
Harder to talk about them.
Hey, right? Can you guys look that way first?
No, my kids are great, mm-hmm. and
they really are.
I don't have unrealistic expectations about where they're at right now, skill level, but where they could be. Mm-hmm. They could be whatever they want to,
right.
Whatever they want to be. But I have to sometimes dial myself back a little bit and say, what do they want?
Yes. Right.
And I get there sometimes. Sometimes you live through your kids a little bit because
vicariously.
Yeah, you want them to succeed at a high level, and that may not be what they want. And so if I have to say, hey, let's go practice. Hey, let's put in extra work. Let's go hit the gym. If I have to say all these things to them, is that what they really want to do? So, I put myself, I dial myself back, I should say, a little bit. So I let them decide, and they need to push themselves, and they need to know what they want to do.
And do you think, and your daughter, oldest one, how old?
14.
Do you think at that age, other parents are, and I'm not saying at 14, like obviously if there's some studs who are like big schools are already looking at them because they're just studs. Majority of the girls though, it's like there's just starting high school. But do you think parents, are there a lot of parents where you guys are at where it's, we need to go to this school and we're going to get recruited by LSU or Alabama tomorrow? Right. You see that a lot?
And so we see a lot of parents who are chasing that, what we call a national schedule.
Yeah.
And so they want to travel all over the place to play what they call better competition, but they can't win games locally.
Right.
So why are we chasing, why are we spending thousands of dollars?
14.
Yeah.
For 14. And we went to college showcases at 14. Does that make sense? No one's getting recruited at 14 most of the time.
Colleges are like, thanks for your money.
Exactly. But you have parents that are pushing that schedule. And so that's what the whole team ends up doing.
Yep.
Even though you as a parent or me as a parent, I know that that's probably not going to benefit them. We could find a better tournament that's less expensive during that time.
Yeah. And when I played travel, we were most all girls on my team, we all went like mid-major, and it was all like East Coast. So my coach was like, it's not necessary for us to go to Colorado, all these big tournaments out west. No one on this team wants to go out west. And that's also too, and 14, I still think is really young to figure out what you want to do or where you want to go college. But like when you start to get 15, 16, then it's like, okay, figure out where you want to go to school. Do you want to be close to your parents? Do you want to be far? What do you want to do in school? Even though I still think I didn't know what I wanted to do. I think like marketing.
I still don't know what I want to do.
It's like you gotta start to think of everything else other than I want to go D1. Like you got to think about all the other things that go into it, and then that's going to determine what team's best for you, and where your team goes, and how much money your parents are spending.
And I'll tell you, we've talked about this before. Like we moved from a small town in Virginia, where my son was getting ready to be on varsity as a starter, to moving down to South Florida, to barely playing as a freshman on the JV team. And we played on the national level teams, on the Canes teams and the local teams. And we played this year. We actually stayed local with 4 coaches that all played professionally. Best year he's ever had, most fun he's ever had. We didn't travel anywhere but maybe 2 hours away as farthest. And he learned more this season than he has in the past 5 seasons since we've stopped coaching. Because when I coached, I did what you talked about, all fundamentals. We literally went from, in practices, it was infield, outfield, infield, outfield. Then we went to exactly, like situational stuff. Then we went to bunt coverages. We went to outfield coverages. We went to shifts, all that kind of stuff. And all the parents are like, they don't think they understand what you're talking about. I can promise you all like 7 out of 10 of those kids are all playing varsity as freshmen this year because they all fundamentally sound. It might not be because they're the best player in the world, but they're fundamentally sound. And you see these coaches that are out there now, like my son didn't make the national team, so I'm going to put together a local team, and then we're going to go travel on a national level, and we're going to go 0-4 at every single tournament we go to, play the consolation game, and then we're going to fly back home and to be disappointed and talk about what we need to do to get better. Play local, like play what your
especially in South Florida. Oh my gosh.
Here's a different monster. Yeah, here's a little different. I mean, because everybody comes here to play ball, right? Same thing, California. North Carolina, Georgia is a big place too. I mean, Ohio, New York. Those places are a little bit tougher to find. But like me and Joe were talking this weekend, and like they're playing in domes every weekend. I'm like, that's amazing,
right?
Like that's like the coolest thing in the world as a kid, right?
Well, I grew up in Ohio. We were in the Spano Dome. I don't know what it's called now. Yeah. And it's just like an indoor. There's 2 fields, right?
How many fields are in the Spano?
Yeah, and it's just like a big dirt dome. Yeah. And it's like, but that's all we knew.
It's all dirt?
Yes. All dirt. And
really?
It's like literally like a big
as well.
It looks like a horse. What do they call
it? Like a horse stable
like
type of deal?
Like arena.
Arena, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't have that issue down here. I will say that's the perks of being in South Florida. And I mean, the issue is it's year round. So, with baseball, you see a lot of kids that burn out over time and they stop playing. Their arms are hurting. I've seen kids that were 16, 17 looking at getting Tommy John already. There's like a fine line of like overplaying and underplaying and not playing enough. And like my son is playing football. So like the entire season last year, we did nothing but football because he played quarterback. This year he didn't play quarterback. So I let him work on hitting every weekend. So every weekend he would hit, and then throughout the week he hit off a tee. That way he stayed into it. But some of these kids are like 24/7, baseball, fast pitch. And if that's what you really love, that's okay. But I think there's a fine line of like being pushed by parents to go play because they think that they're going to go to a Power 5 school.
Yes.
And in all reality, like their real simple place should be like, hey, let's go play club ball, or let's just get into school and let's go to college and play ball. And that's what I pushed with Landon was, I don't care if you go on a scholarship. I don't care if you go on a full ride or if you get a partial scholarship, go to college. Like go to college, play ball, get that experience. I've talked to enough people that have played at that level that it's beneficial and it's a life-changing event. Like if you can play on those teams, you have friends for life too. And you have connections and you learn and meet new people in the industry. It's a different animal than when I went to college. All I wanted to do was drink. So, and that's just me being truthful, but I had nobody to push me.
Exactly. Yeah.
I didn't have a team to say, hey, don't go out and do this or don't go out and do that. It's having like a group of friends that will always have your back, but you're also like learning and growing as a team.
Yep. Yeah, and going off what you said, just going back to the youth sport or playing all year round. Being in Ohio, we didn't have that option, so I played 3 sports, even all through high school. Well, I was in North Carolina, but still, I all 3 sports. I loved softball. Obviously, went D1, loved it, but I didn't want to do it all year round. I want to play other sports. Whereas my husband grew up in Miami. His coach going into high school, you don't get to play other sports. I mean, he wanted to, and it was. So he has a different view because that's all he knew. It's like, well, we can play all year round, which is great. Now, obviously.
So what is his viewpoint though?
Definitely take a break, but if you want to go to a big school, like it's not a bad thing to not play all year round, but like
focus on it.
Yeah, focus on it. Yes. Whereas me, like I knew when I was when I was playing basketball in the winter, obviously practice every day. I knew, okay, softball's my thing. So maybe twice a week I'll go hit in the garage.
Yeah.
But I wasn't at the field. I was like literally taking a break, and my travel ball coaches were great about that. Like we didn't start up until May.
Yeah.
And then you get going. Yeah, right. But yeah, he sees a little different because that's all he knew, and all his teammates, they only played baseball.
Yeah.
Then you have the argument. Well, a lot of players in South Florida or warmer climates a lot better.
Yeah.
Well, it's like,
and they are
right.
Yep.
So it's like give and take. And you see more injuries.
Yes.
I honestly, I don't know the right answer. I just knew for myself, I wanted to play all different sports. Maybe because I didn't have the option in Ohio to play all year round. So yeah, I guess it depends on the kid.
What about up there in Cali?
Pretty good mix. Yeah, at least at the local high school, they encourage people to play as many sports as they can. And obviously in California, you could kind of play year round any sport. So I mean, for me, I just did baseball all year round because I just absolutely loved it. But except for 1 year of JV volleyball. So there was that.
Did you wear short shorts?
I did. I knew that you would be interested in that, Chris. Absolutely, I did. I'll pull up some pictures for you later. But yeah, so baseball was just year round for me, and I think for most players that want to play in college, that's the case. But there's also a good amount of athletes that I think there's more of a trend in recent years to play as many sports as you can and not to play so much baseball. And I think that's good for the mental side of the game, at least, because if you play baseball, every day for years, like it could be kind of mentally taxing. Or if you find yourself struggling at the plate or something, sometimes it's good to just like forget about baseball for a couple months and then go back to it. So I think it's totally individualistic. Totally depends on the kid as far as what's best for them.
That's the best way to put it right there. Depends on the kid.
Yeah.
Because every kid is different.
I do think too, I will say, and I didn't say this, like 14 and under, I don't think you should be playing or maybe even 12 and under. You should not be playing all year round because I get a girls lessons and it's summer and I'm like, got any going to the beach, going to the pool, and they're like, practice. I'm like, you're 10.
Yeah,
like,
go out and have fun.
Yeah, give them a couple months off.
I will say though, like, so I like, especially like you guys did the COVID year of, got into influencing and whatever else. Like we didn't have Little League. It was my son's 12U season. And like all we did all summer long was play baseball. And the kids had a blast. But we also weren't the coaches. Like we go to hotels. Everybody was like, I'm in the pool with the kids, right? Like I want to have fun, and we're out at the beaches and things like that, and allowing the kids, because we were all family, we were all friends too. Like we had known each other for years and years. We still do. I still talk to some of these people. So I think every situation is different. I think there's some good stuff there, and being a kid and like growing up and learning that. But a lot of these kids are also really enjoying and creating friendships and bonds with these teammates, and that's all they want to do. Is hang out with their friends. So again, it's situational. Depends on the situation, depends on the kid, depends on the parents and the coaches.
Meg, would so earlier you mentioned, you coached that team and the parents, didn't want necessarily you guys to coach the way that you were coaching, even though it probably would have benefited those players tremendously. What would you say parents should look for in a coach? Like if I'm a parent and I'm like, okay, what qualities should I look for in a coach? The way they're running practices, stuff like that. Like what should I be looking for? Let's say if my kid wants to play in college or play at the next levels, like what should I be looking for in a coach?
Yeah. I would say the biggest thing is teaching them the game, which again, I know we just talked about, it's just, it's not taught enough. You can be the best athlete, but if you don't know where to throw the ball or what to do in certain situations, it does you no good. So actually breaking down the game, going over situations, and then, but also being tough, but also being encouraging. Cause I know, and I'm starting out as coaching, it is hard. And there's so many things I regret that I did as a coach. Like when I think it was my first year, we just were playing awful and it was embarrassing. And I said some things after the game that I 1,000,000% regret. And you learn from that, just like anything else, you learn from it. Have to encourage the girls. I've had a coach where it was to the point where I was almost done playing. She absolutely ruined me. Tried to ruin me. She didn't. But there was no positive ever. And I don't care who you are, that doesn't work for anyone.
Yeah.
You got to throw in some positive. And I think you have to show some tough love too. Talking about earlier clinics where coaches are like, I'm afraid to yell and get mad because parents will get mad. It's like, no, you get mad when it's warranted, but you also got to figure out when to hype them up and when to show some positivity.
And a lot of people are still growing up when they're coaching youth kids too, right?
Yeah.
Like when I was coaching, I think I was 24, 25, 26. So I was definitely not as timid as I am now when it comes around younger kids and like knowing how to talk to the kids. But I also was like, I was friends with them. So like I could come down hard on them and 5 minutes later we'd be joking on the mound, you know? So like it all depends on the situation again. But I think you have to be hard on younger kids because they don't have the discipline and they don't have the, what's the word I'm looking for? They don't have the emotional tolerance that we have as older kids or older people. Like we don't understand, like you're yelling at me now. I could be like, well, we can yell and have a conversation 5 minutes later. A kid can take that as, you know, you hate them, you don't like them, can't do anything right. And that's not where you're coming from. So you have to be able to come down hard, but also be able to pick them up at the same time.
And I don't know if you see this, like when that time I said some things, I was throwing out some cuss, and granted they were 14. I was, and I know it's different in baseball, throwing out cuss words or whatever. Coaching girls and boys, it's completely different. The emotions are like, and my dad.
What is the biggest difference? Like
emotions.
Yeah.
Emotions.
And you can't. Yeah. And again, granted, some girls like I feel I'm tough. Like you can yell at me, and I'll be like, I'm not gonna cry.
Yeah.
Now, when I was younger, maybe like my dad coached. He was my basketball coach. 6th or 7th and 8th grade. And he at the time was still coaching D1 baseball. And he would he wouldn't yell at us, but he'd be like, hey, to us. And he's like, you guys would start crying. He's like, I didn't say anything. Right. And my mom's like, you can't be like that, especially the younger girls. But yeah, emotions are high for sure.
Yeah, as a father of 4 daughters, I figured that out a while ago. And, you have to coach girls a lot different, and they will shut down.
Yes.
So you get too hard on them, they will shut down. Girls are constantly thinking that what other people think about them. And so you have to get them to laugh at themselves more often than what you do with boys. So if they make a mistake, it's harder for girls to laugh it off because they're wondering what the other girls are thinking and things like that. And like you said, if you come down too hard on them, I think it was you that said that they think that you hate them.
Yeah.
And it's hard to recover from that. Once you
agree.
do that, it's hard to recover from that. So,
especially if it's not, and especially if it's your kid, and that's the hardest part, right? And I recommend any coach, unless you have the ability to separate the two, and your kid can understand that, don't do it. Don't coach your kid because it's a nightmare.
My dad coached my brother in college, and that's a topic I want them to talk on in the coaches clinic.
Yeah.
They didn't speak to each other it was not good. Like to the point where mom's like, I'm not speaking to either of you until you guys figure it out.
Yeah, figure it out.
Because my dad just had a hard time. He's like, I didn't want to favor him, but my mom's like, but he's your son, so you can take him out to dinner after practice. Cause he's a freshman homesick. But my dad's like, everyone's gonna think I'm favorite. He's the favorite.
It's like the backwards daddy ball. We talked about it before.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that's a subject for sure that I want them to touch on. But yeah, and this is one thing, and I want to be clear. I don't think it's a bad thing at all that there's male coaches in softball. Not at all. I feel though I would love to see more females. Just one, they played the sport, but two, they can just relate a little bit more to the girls. Right. And I think I'm seeing a lot more former players coaching, which I think is great. They understand the girls a little bit better. Even though, again, I think guy coaches are great.
I can't win with my wife half the time. So I couldn't even imagine trying to have a girl.
That's how it is, though.
That's my wife says all the time. God blessed me with not having a girl because I wouldn't be able to handle it. So.
You would figure it out. You sure would.
So, one of the biggest things that we were talking about, and one of the main reasons Meg's actually here today, is we're filming a video on how to size girls properly with softball bats. And I think one of the biggest issues in the game and going to the store and parents thinking that they know what they're really talking about, not knowing what they're talking about, is sizing of products and getting the correct equipment. Yes.
Yes.
You guys see that a lot at, obviously you've been in the game with your daughters, you've played the game your whole life. Is that something that's a consistent issue all the way through?
Yeah. For when I see, and just messages I get, what size should I get, whatever. And that's also goes back to social media. It's so great because there's so much out there, but it's also not so great.
Are we talking about influencers?
No, just like, are you part of the coaching softball Fastpitch page?
Yeah.
Yep.
There's like 180,000 followers, and it's a lot of, what my daughter's dropping her hands. What should I do? What's the best bat? And everyone's giving their opinion who have no idea.
Never seen the kid hit before.
Right. And
no idea what size
and
they
so
are.
then you see all that. You see maybe like, oh, you should go get a drop or a 34. And 5 people are like, agreed. And so then the parent doesn't know. So like, okay, well, these people say it.
Yep.
So there's so much out there that it gets overwhelming. And there's things I see, and then I start to second guess myself. I'm like, wait a minute. But I'm like, no.
Am I wrong?
Right. So I think this video, it's going to be great. Just obviously you've been doing this for how long, or with bats?
What year is this? About 7 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've been around it a lot. So we're just going to get into the nitty gritty of all things bats. We're talking.
Yeah. We have a huge lineup over here. Joe was out shopping earlier trying to figure out
there's about like $1 million on that bat ball.
Pretty much.
You're talking about social media. So a lot of times if I get drawn into those posts, I just say, shoot me a message and I'll help you. Because as soon as I put my opinion on there, 50 people are telling me I'm wrong and arguing it. And it goes back and forth. And I just don't have time for that, honestly.
Right.
So if they want actual help, shoot me a message. I'm going to ask you some key questions and get you steered in the right direction. But at the end of the day, they're going to have to figure some things out to know exactly what that player needs.
Yeah.
Because I can't do it, over the phone
right.
or through a text message. But I can get them pretty close.
You know what we need to do? Kind of how they have urgent care and like online medicine. We need to do like online sizing.
Urgent bat sizing.
Not a bad idea.
It's not a bad idea, man. We need to cut that because
right.
that's definitely needs to go on there. I don't want nobody to sell that or buy that idea. But
let's get it
no, and it's funny because we had DeMarini's marketing team in here last week, and we were talking about some of their more popular products. And we got into the Fastpitch side, and one of the things that we were talking about was like people are going to, DeMarini reps and slugger reps are going to these colleges and they're letting people try the bats out. They're seeing higher velocity exit velos. They're seeing better performance with their swing, but they still go back to, their favorite bat at that time, and they're not giving the product the opportunity. So is it more like hype behind these products that why people are buying them, or
marketing?
I think
marketing?
Yeah, definitely the hype. Well, even I get people, and I wasn't power hitter, slapper, and we'll get into this. There's different types of bats for power hitters, slappers. But I even get, what bat are you using? And I'll say it because I'm like, I like it, but it's like people don't know there's a specific bat for you, and it is all obviously preference. But yeah, I think marketing.
They
jostling out, it depends on who's using it. If she's hitting home runs, I'm getting that bat.
That's rack jump in on a post and swing a bat at a certain time, and everybody comes in, they buy the bat in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
It's like the product sells out. It's influence and it's hype and it's people trust you guys, right? So like while there's an age of internet education now, there's also an age of like being people uneducated as well. And people are taking what they see in videos and whatever. It's just like Taylor Swift, right? She shows up at a Kansas City game, and all of a sudden you have 5 million Kansas City jerseys sold out. you get the right person that wears the right glove, and all of a sudden that glove sells out. Well, guess what? That guy just bought an outfield glove instead of buying an infield, glove. Or, hey, I'm buying a first base mitt instead of a catcher's mitt, or whatever, because parents are just so uneducated. And nothing wrong with that. Just they're uneducated.
I think and I'm excited to do this because when I played, bats weren't a thing. It was like, here's a bat, and you're like, I'll swing it.
Yeah.
And there's so many things I'm probably going to learn when we talk about how to size and all the things that it wasn't a thing when I played. You're like, you're handed a bat. Even in college, I can't even remember. I want to say we used DeMarini, but that's how much I just don't know, because it didn't matter. Bats were not made that way.
We've had that conversation multiple times. There's so many different products now. There's every brand has 5 different bats, because it has become a technology thing, right? Like, there's people that are going to swing a balanced bat that should be swinging an end-loaded bat. There's people that should be swinging an end-loaded bat, but they're swinging a balanced bat. And those products are there, and they're in those lines because there is a type of hitter for every single bat that's out. And one of those bats is going to be better, but people aren't testing them, and they're not trying them, and they're not getting the right education. So pretty soon, guys, you'll have the opportunity to go on, MegRem's page, MegRem Softball.
You can trust us.
Yeah. At least get an understanding kind of, of where you should start. Right. And then from there, it's on you and your child. Like, make sure your child's happy, first of all, with the product that they're swinging. They're not just getting a bat handed to them and that's what they're swinging. You need to make sure that you're going through the education process with your child as much as you need to learn as well. So, yeah, that's that short, simple spiff there.
Again, Meg, I was like you. I didn't care what bat I swung, really. I swung whatever they gave me in college, because I think we were like Marucci or something. So they gave us like a Cat 8 and then a Cat 9. So that's what I swung in college. And then in high school, I swung a bat that was like, I think it was like $90 or $100. Was that how much it cost? And like, all my teammates had like a lot more expensive bats than I did usually growing up, but I didn't feel like it made much of a difference. But yeah, I'd actually be curious, because I'm honestly just not educated on the subject of baseball bats as I should be, to be honest. Because as far as I always got a more balanced bat, and that was kind of what I preferred opposed to end loaded. So I knew that at least about my swing. But beyond that, I didn't really know or notice too much of a difference, depending on the bat. I felt like usually when I got out, it was my fault. But I'd say that is one thing that I've noticed, like the bat for sure makes a difference, and you want to get the right size. And so those things are important. But I think a lot of parents just have like this knee jerk reaction that, oh, my kid's not hitting. It must be the bat. So surely if we get them a new bat, they'll play good. And like, I'm just going to tell you, like 99.9% of the time, it's the kid's fault, not the bat. So that's my take, but it definitely does matter. But again, I would like to get more educated on the difference between end loaded and balanced and all that good stuff, because I genuinely don't know too much about it.
I will say though, I graduated in 2012. The bats then versus now, I like joke, but I'm kind of serious. The pop is insane what they are now. I'm like, I would have had so many more home runs in college. It's truly like, and obviously, yes, you have the good fundamentals, but I think like even when I'm swinging now, I'm like, dang, like I kind of want to get out there because I feel like this ball's about to go far.
Right. And baseball is the complete opposite. Baseball bats have gotten less hot over the years as they are.
Softball.
Yeah. So it's not too far away. I think you'll start seeing that fast pitch side get a little bit more temperamented, because some of those bats are ridiculous.
Now, I'm out here thinking I'm a power hitter. I'm like, no, girl, you're a slapper.
That brings up a good question, actually. So what makes you a slapper, and what makes you think like become a slapper, I guess? Like when you guys are like coming up through, me and RAC have no idea, I'm sure.
Yeah.
RAC, you have no idea what a slapper, I know what the slapper is, but like, I don't know what makes you want to be a slapper in comparison to like a regular hitter or something, I guess.
Just when I started slapping, my dad's like, because again, baseball, he's like, what the heck are you doing? Like this, and he finally, after like talking about it, but so a slapper is someone who's just very fast. For me, I was not a power hitter, obviously. And I was more singles doubles, which is not a bad thing. I don't know. I just wasn't like, wow, you're such a good hitter. So I had a lot of speed. So I could go from on the left side at the time, from home to first in 2.8 seconds, softball, 60-foot bases, zero time for error for defense. Yeah. And slappers are usually under 2.9. So being on the left side, you're a step closer, like 1 to 2 steps closer. And depending on what kind of slapper you are, it's all about placement. For me, even on the left side, I switched when I was 17, which way too late. I just wasn't really like getting recruited heavily. So I was like, let me switch and then showcase my speed, because my defense, in my opinion, was top notch. So I was like, I got that down. And now if I can showcase something else, my speed, I want coaches to be like, to have some interest. So
Sure.
I switched late. So I didn't have enough time to stand in on the left side as well and learn that. So I was very good at placing the ball on the left side. Like if I can get the ball down on the ground, I'm safe. And I actually took that into college. I ended up doing both sides. So I was a righty hitter and a slapper, which again, don't recommend, but no one told me not to do it. I didn't know. And because I could have just stayed on the left, figured out how to stand in on the left side. Because eventually a slapper will get to the point where they're a triple threat. So they can bunt, slap, and stand in. So the defense has no idea how to play you. And
then you have speed on top of that.
Yeah. So like a good slapper, defense is in, I'm going to power slap or stand in. Defense then is like, dang, she has some power. I'm going to move back. You just put it on the ground and you're safe. So they just have no idea how to play you.
So did you switch when you were actually standing in, you went back to your right side?
So it'd be like, if nobody on, nobody out, I'm going on the left side. If there's runners in scoring position, I'm going on the right, which I tell.
Now the defense is obviously adjusted, right?
Yeah. I mean, on the right side, I'm trying to hit hard.
Sure.
Whereas the left side, I could have at least learned how to stand in, and then they would just be like, is she going to slap? Is she going to lay it on a bunt? Is she going to stand in? Right. So I tell girls now, because again, I didn't know. I like, if you're going to switch over, stay. You just got to trust process. You're going to get out a lot in the beginning. Know that. So, because I know a lot of girls like, it didn't work this tournament. I'm going back. I didn't get on. It's like, you're 12. Colleges aren't looking at you. It's okay. You got to learn.
You're 12.
Yeah. Like, and because parents stress out. Well, she went over all weekend. It's like, but did she put the ball in play, or did, you're switching from the right side standing in to running at the ball on the left side. That's hard. So yeah, picking a side, and then the defense, it's all about putting pressure on the defense.
It sounds like a nightmare to play infield in softball, because it's like infield in baseball, you already have zero time and zero margin for error. And I hated the left side of the infield for that. So I just can't even imagine doing that in softball, where you have like half a second to get rid of the ball.
And that's another thing, which again, this could be a whole nother podcast, where you have a lot of baseball dads coaching softball. And this is, for some reason, I'm getting a lot of, don't backhand the ball. I don't know why, but I don't know. I know you don't teach that in baseball, but I'm like, okay, so if I'm playing short and I have a ball hit even 2 steps to my right, I can't get in front of it. Even if I get in front of it, she's safe. Yeah. I need to keep my momentum going. But if you've never played softball and played, like, you don't understand it, how fast it actually is. And that's why I'm trying my best, even though I get all the time. I mean, wrong. I'm like, I played shortstop.
We call those trolls, Meg. Okay.
Yeah.
But it's like, and it's again, but it's actual coaches though. That's what's softball coaches. That's what's frustrating, where it's like, you're teaching your girls. Anyway, so yeah, I could go on forever, but yes, it is.
They're teaching them baseball when they're really playing softball.
Yeah, and as a shortstop, just like RAC said, it's really tough. You just don't know where to play, and you don't know where to stand, because they get there in 2.8 seconds, 2.7.
That's crazy.
It's tough.
Sure. That knocks our 90 times or 60 times.
Yeah, you have zero room for air, no bobbles,
So
no
actually,
shuffle.
My 10-year-old, I'm teaching her to slap.
Let's go.
She's extremely, extremely fast. And I saw that from the get-go. And also, when she first started hitting, she would come out when I was training my older daughter, and she would just pick up a bat and swing off a tee. She's swinging left-handed. And then next time she comes out, she's swinging right-handed. I'm like, what is she doing? So naturally able to adapt.
Yeah.
So we're working on footwork and things like that right now. So she's very green in that area, but it's good. It's good to hear what you said about don't go back and forth. So it might be a better idea just to keep her at left, because she can bat both. So keep her at left and then just slap and not bat right.
Yeah. And I'm doing a video with my brother eventually on the differences between baseball and softball. Baseball, it's great to be a switch hitter. Yeah. It's not a thing. It's just not beneficial really in softball.
So having a lefty pitcher or righty pitcher, it doesn't matter if you're sitting from left or right.
Not like it is in baseball. Yeah. And I'm assuming it's obviously from the angle that's being pitched, but yeah, pick a side for sure. It'll help them it'll just going to screw the defense up. What you want?
I tell you, if
Makes
if
sense.
anybody ever told me that you could actually get a better opportunity to go to college if you were a lefty hitter, I would have never hit righty
Yeah.
because everybody and their brother wants lefty hitters.
Yeah, that's what my husband, because our baby's due in March. We're like, no right side.
Yeah.
Stay on the left side.
Softball or baseball, that baby is hitting from the left.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Might as well just call it Lefty. All right. New nickname, Lefty.
Right.
We're naming Meg's baby already, guys. What is the future outlook? I mean, where you see, your audience going? Where do you see your channel going? What is your next steps?
I'm not 100% sure because I don't know what it's going to look like in the spring with obviously having a baby, but I do know I still want to keep my clinics. I probably won't be doing, maybe we'll start with like one a month. I don't want to be traveling as much as I am now. It's just too much.
Yeah.
I do want to move more to online. And with that, like I'm launching practice plans in January, which I'm really excited about because like we've already talked about, a lot of coaches who are volunteering to coach, they've never played, so they don't know. And I want to give them just like a rough guide on how to run a practice, which obviously you guys are all coaches. You could have the best athletes, but if you're not teaching them fundamentals, how to play the game, it doesn't know good. So I'm really excited to launch those. And I think I just want to do more, like maybe like a slapping program. I'm still going to keep my YouTube because the reason I started all of this was to give parents and coaches and players just a free resource to learn the game. Because at the time, even it's grown so much since 2020, but the game is softball. It's grown a ton, but I want to give more to it. I want to grow the sport even more. So there'll always be free resources, but I just want to figure out how to produce more programs online.
Mm-hmm. So education.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
That's what I love about all you influencers, and it looks like RAC had to go pee apparently. But all the influencers that we're working with, the majority of you guys are focused on giving back to the kids, right? And like teaching them things that they didn't have an opportunity before. Like when we came up through, first off, I had like dial up, trying to log into AOL. Like it was a nightmare to fight my mom from picking up the phone to call somebody and kicking me off the internet. But these kids are on their phones 24/7. So if they are on their phones, at least they have something good to look at rather than let's just go out and do a musically like jump, whatever. We're at least practicing and learning something as we're watching this. And parents are doing the same thing. Like when I was coaching, I didn't know what I was doing half the time. So I was learning how to I knew what to look for, but I didn't know how to coach it. And at the youth level, like there's a difference between like when I got to 12 years old, I backed away because I think that's a big jump from like the small field to the big field on the baseball side of things. But being able to teach fundamentals is simple. And I think if you give that opportunity and you give resources to parents, then they can kind of learn and teach themselves along with the kid and they can do something together too.
Yeah. And for me, fun fact, taught myself how to slap because like you growing up, we didn't have YouTube videos or social media. We didn't have social media until I graduated college and, Facebook, but that was different.
Yeah, you had to be invited, kids. Okay, I was like one of the first. I got an invitation.
And everything. Yeah, you probably had to have the college.
I did. I had to have a college email to get in.
Showing your age. No, I'm just kidding.
I am.
But
2005.
And even now, so when I grew up, I watched like Cleveland. I can't say the G word. Cleveland Indians. They're my team.
Big Guardians.
That's who I watched. That's who I watched growing up because softball wasn't on TV.
Yeah.
And now that's how I learned the game. Now you have to pay to watch MLB games. Softball's on a lot more, which is awesome. I didn't have that growing up, but that's how I learned the game. And so I'm trying to give, even though it's not a game, I'm trying to give those free resources to the kids who just, they're not watching the game. So they got to learn somehow.
Sure. And now, is your husband into doing the YouTube videos and things too? Like, does he get into this?
No. I mean, he thinks it's like awesome. He will I love talking to him about like picking his brain, and I'll talk to my brother and my dad. Just like, you get trolls who they're like wrong,
Always.
and I'm like, and then I second guess myself. I'm like, oh my God, did I do that? And I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure he used to do that. So I love to pick their brain, and I had him. I had to like beg him to do a video. I did it like a couple weeks ago. The differences between baseball, softball fundamentals.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much I was trying to show it's the same. And I was like, just so you know, I'm going to put you online and you're going to get ridiculed.
Yeah, 100%.
And of course,
oh yeah, like, inevitably.
His arm action is slow, and he had the yips. That's actually why he stopped playing.
Oh,
Yeah. So,
The yips.
so, but I was like, you're going to get, he's like, I don't, whatever. And so he doesn't care. But I was like, just want you to know your feelings might be hurt. He's like, I don't care. No, but he's always helping me, like throwing me front toss. And cause I'm not really doing lessons anymore. But when I do lessons, I'm like, all right, ladies, do you want to be online? Here, let's do a drill.
Yeah.
And of course they're like, yeah.
Now, do the majority of them get into it? Like they're excited
I
about it?
love it. Absolutely.
It's
love
funny.
it.
I've never heard anybody say the yips outside of RAC until today.
Is that not the word?
No, we've actually had like a whole series on it, and getting through the yips. And like, we talked about it on a podcast, and like obviously you grew up in a baseball family, so you know what it is, but most people have no idea. They just think,
really?
oh my God, we're like frozen. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, and I'm sure you guys talked about it too. It's crazy how all of a sudden it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why he stopped playing. I mean, yeah, he got to a point where it's just not working.
Yeah.
So yeah, but everyone's like, your arm action is. I'm like, he has the yips. Leave him alone.
I saw that video. He looked smooth.
He does. Yeah, and
you guys both look smooth.
Thank you. But of course, you're always going to get someone negative. No, but I was like, you look
nonstop.
Great.
It doesn't matter if you're telling everybody that the sky's blue. They're going to fight with you and tell you that it's green or whatever else.
Exactly.
When I saw the camp that they have coming up, where it's working with the parents, so the parent has to sign up with their own player, and you're showing the parents how to work. That's amazing. Yeah. I played. I'm 40 years old. I've played baseball my whole life, then played slow pitch softball. And when I got put into coaching, I was pushed into coaching. I didn't want to coach, but they didn't have a coach. And so I'm like, okay, I'll do it. And I'm like, how do I teach the fundamentals? I know the end result.
Right.
You know, I know what they're supposed to be doing, but how do we get there? Like, how do we do the small steps? You know? And it took me a long time. And I had a lot of resources online and things like that to reteach myself the fundamentals. But camp that you're running is going to be great. I'm
really excited about that. My daddy actually used to do this type of camp when he was coaching at Kent State in Ohio. And he was like, it was our most popular camp. And the setup is we're teaching the parent, okay, here's the drill. Now you're going to turn around and you're going to teach it to your kid. So we're not really going to be involved. Like, obviously we'll be there if they need help, but I want you to relay what I said. And so that way now your kid heard it from me. So, because I know I always say with my dad sometimes, I'm like, Dad, you don't know what you're talking about. So they know it's coming from me. So it's like, okay, what mom and dad are saying right now, like, I'm going to listen to them. Yeah, it's legit. So, but it's just another resource that we can give parents to where it's like, okay, if you want to go home, this is the lingo. And obviously you can make it how you want, but this is what you can do at home and how you can teach your kid. And they're both going to be doing it. And my dad was saying too, he's like, we just have to really make sure we're telling parents, like, for example, when he used to do it, they're like doing front toss. And sometimes the parent and kid would switch off. And he's like, these kids are throwing front toss, not getting behind the screen. And these parents are like, whoosh. My dad's like, whoa. Yeah. Like, parents,
hey,
settle down.
It's funny until we actually had a kid that was throwing front toss at JV practice and got drilled in his mouth and knocked all his teeth out. And it's extremely dangerous, like extreme if you're not doing it right.
And we're like, parents, maybe let's see that your kid's not behind the screen and let's not try and hit a home run.
Yeah, common sense.
So he's like, we just really need to make sure we're telling these parents to like simmer yourself.
So that's coming up. What is
December
that?
9th.
December 9th. And that's full already.
It sold out in about an hour.
Good for you. That's amazing.
So I really want to make this.
Joe said, do you have extra room? Like,
come on,
He's
Joe.
got 40 on the waiting list.
So I thought the demand would be like, oh, okay. But then sold out an hour. I've got like 40 on the wait list. So I really want to make this a thing. I want to kind of travel with it and I want to tack on a coach's clinic with it.
That's
and I'm
awesome.
Trying to convince my brother's going to be a little bit more busy because he's actually coaching. But I told my dad, I'm like, okay, let's make this a thing.
It's a family thing.
It's just like I have the Findlay college girls helping me, and there's going to be 15. And obviously, you have to have a big space because we have 75 kids, 75 parents. So that's just going to be the hardest thing is finding the facility, the equipment, the coaches. But I think it's a great idea. I'm really excited to see how this turns out.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
I think it's a great idea too. That's so needed. Yeah, that stuff's so needed.
Brack, is that something you're talking about maybe adding on to the NYABC or where are we at with that?
Yeah, seriously, we should. It's funny so January was when I did my first camp and I did it with my buddy Ange, who also makes content. And we got a bunch of content creators out there who make just coaching videos and we had just like a great time. The camp was awesome. But actually our first idea though for it was to do like a father-son camp. And that's what we were going to do. We ended up going a different direction. But yeah, like I feel like so much of what you describe is very similar to my mission with coaching. And I know my buddy Ange has done a lot of online stuff and created like programs and stuff that have been tremendously helpful for people who specifically who catch. It's mostly just defensive work. But yeah, it's cool seeing the opportunities that the internet has opened because it makes it so that people can get access to good information, and also so that parents can be equipped to teach the right things to their kids and players. And I think that's just exciting stuff, and definitely the kind of stuff I want to be doing moving forward.
Yeah, and you just want kids or parents to be confident in what they're relaying.
I guess moving forward, I know that you're going to be kind of jumping into the coaches clinics and things like that, but have you considered maybe playing at the pro level? No.
I just turned 34 and everything hurts, and I just no.
I understand that.
No,
I just turned 36 and I can't go to sleep without pulling something while I like twitch in my sleep or something random. Yeah.
No, and I do. Like it's crazy, and you guys, everyone's probably all the same. It's like I know way more now than I did when I was playing. I do think, my defense definitely could still be there. Hitting, I'm like, I do think my swing might be a little bit.
It's so hard because like the hand-eye coordination and like your twitch muscles just aren't the same. Like I tried to play third again the other day for like just messing around with our guys while we're hitting BP, and Mike actually hit a ball to me, and I was like, I don't think I got it anymore, boys. I'm like, it came so fast. Like, you don't have that, like the ability, the reaction time.
Yeah. No. And I wish, I don't even know if I would have played after college. I didn't even know like pro was like an option.
Yeah.
And at the time, I want to say there was like a couple pro teams, like the Akron Racers, and I don't even Chicago band. Yeah. I have no idea. So it's definitely getting bigger now, which I love.
It's awesome. We love it. Yeah.
I thought about coaching like at a college level when I graduated. Mm-hmm. And now that time has gone by, like everything that I'm doing now with MegRem softball is what I have going on now, especially now starting a family. It is so flexible, and I'm doing way more than I ever imagined. And I love when I coached 14U and 16U, I loved coaching a team, like building off every day.
Sure.
But now that I'm like doing what I'm doing, I'm like, man, I know how fortunate I am to be in this position, and it would be really hard to let go. So as of right now, I'm keeping MegRem softball.
Good for you. Nothing wrong with that. Not at all.
Yeah, absolutely. And I got a question for you. Just I wanted to ask, so I was curious. So as someone who played baseball and coaches baseball, knows baseball well, I'm trying to learn softball more, and I've been getting into it. I actually enjoy watching softball more. I feel like the pace is better. But if I was like to tell you, okay, I'm about to go coach a softball team, what advice would you give to me as someone who knows baseball pretty well, but maybe doesn't know softball that well at all? What would be like your advice to me?
Probably the number one thing is it's just so much faster. That's the one thing that I feel like stands out to me, because fundamentals are the same. Obviously you have different, stealing is different and takeoffs and all that, but yeah, it's just a lot faster. You'll have, and we kind of touched on this, baseball coaches like, oh, it's a field shuffle, throw. It's like, okay, well, the girl's going to be safe. So we can't be doing that in softball.
Yeah.
But honestly, I don't know.
I didn't really think about that.
That's just the biggest thing for me, because everything else, for the most part, fundamentals are the same. And this is probably an argument too. What do you guys think? Softball swing, baseball swing, same or different?
So I see similarities in both, and I think it depends again on if you're going to be a slapper. I can tell you're not going to see anybody other than maybe Ichiro that can slap in the pros.
But the actual swing, standing in.
I would say that it's very similar. Very similar. Yeah,
it's the same.
Yeah, I think from what I can tell, I think it's basically the same. I think if there were any differences, it would be potentially softball hitters have a little less reaction time. Is that true? Because it's closer. I know it's kind of evens out.
Haven't you ever seen like those videos of like the pros like trying to hit like
full holes?
Yeah,
starting to hit up Jenny Finch.
Yes, and like it's absolutely insane. I couldn't even imagine, but yes.
So yeah, it's 43 feet, and
yeah, so 43 feet. What's like that equivalent to a 60 foot?
So call it like D1 pitchers. It's like between 60 and 70. depending on what level you're at. And I think they said like 65 and above is, what is it, like 100-mile-an-hour fastball? Something.
Is that it?
I mean, it's
also the
And it
angle.
rises.
The ball comes in different angle.
Yeah.
It's completely.
Yeah, and that's another thing, I guess, is that I feel like your attack angle, like, I mean, I'd imagine if I was hitting a softball, I would have to think down a little bit more than I do baseball. Because, like, I don't know, with baseball, you always got these tall guys pitching and they're coming from up here, and the path of the baseball going into the zone is pretty down. So if I'm trying to get on plane with that, like, my swing does have to be up.
I guess it depends on what you teach then, because a lot of kids want to be taught like hit the ball down and then out, right? So it goes back to coaching and
yeah, it's whatever gets you on line with the ball. But I guess I feel like with softball, it's coming from down here a little bit. I'd imagine a rise ball, you'd have to get on top of it. But that'd be what I'd imagine. I've never actually done it.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like any type of ball though, not get on top, but as the ball is coming in, your hands have to be a little higher than the ball, regardless of the angle. But I mean, I've never hit the baseball, so I don't know. I've never hit a baseball pitcher.
I've never hit a D1 pitcher at all. So whatever you guys are doing, congratulations.
We'll have to arrange that, because I've been curious. I want to learn how to. I want for a video, like maybe we could set this up, but like for a video, I want to learn how to slap hit. Like I'm curious what that looks like and what the process would be like to learn that. I feel like that would be interesting to see.
Yeah, that'd be a good one. That'd be fun.
Sounds like an NYABC kind of thing.
Yeah, no, it does. We're gonna have to talk after this.
Well, I think at this point we're gonna go ahead and wrap this one up. Do you want to give any shout outs on your pages? Give your YouTube links, all that other good stuff. It'll all be in the show notes also, but
I've got my YouTube channel, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Twitter, all MegRem Softball.
that's easy.
Yep. I tried to keep it all the same. You can find me there. I like to tell my girls too, at the end of every clinic, and this goes for anyone. Again, this is why I started it all. If you have ever any questions for me, and email, it's megan@megremsoftball.com. Please message me. Like I do my best to respond to all of them. And if I don't respond, it's because I didn't see it. But I want to really stress to girls and coaches, if you have any questions if you're not sure on how to do something, or you are a coach and you don't know how to run bunt defense, like reach out to me. I have over 200, I think 50 YouTube videos. And I feel like for the most part, I've covered everything. But if I haven't covered it and you're not sure, reach out to me. I'll give you some tips if you want to hear them.
And Joe, thank you very much for stepping in for One-Liner Mike.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
He's getting
One-Liner Joe.
Yeah, next video he's going to be shining. So I guess until next week, RAC.
Yes, sir. Till next week.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in to Beyond the Fences, sponsored by Headbanger Sports. If you do have any other questions, you can reach out to us at info@headbangersports.com. And thanks, Megan. And thank you, Joe, for showing up with us today.